Yesterday's conspiracy theories, tomorrow's headlines. Most are still asleep and I ain't talking about no bedtime. The truth is not a Google search, you need to get your head right. The Greek goddess of illusion was called Media I'm not a coincidence theorist, I look for thread lines. Smashing every deadline, no longer smashing red wine. Though I can hear the bells chime, it feels like the end times. That probably should have been smashed on red wine. But the carnal mind is foolish, obey and end up ghoulish. Don't get used by instinct, take control and learn to use it. Make a load of earnest music, earn a few quid, learn a few tricks. Sure, the truth is persecuted, this whole world is pure abusive. Know a bit about everything and everything about nothing. Figured out my noggin while you picture out shopping. You sit about watching while I dish it out, stop it. I don't mean to sound cocky, I'm not even proud of it. It's a second nature to me, just for me to sound honest. I don't even need to sound honest, never been about profit. Everything but out on it, you can bet your house on it. Doubt I'll be out for the count when the sounds, and I'm down for the beat, no beat down. I mean, how long's it been? Help me out. I've been the only one who's held me down. All in the mind, hell freeze now. Still sick with it, healthy how? Few bars down and the world freaked out. I don't reach out, I seek out to speak out. I'ma recount the reasons they beat out.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in this beautiful world. I'm your host of the 509 Divine Pines podcast, and this is Joseph Daniel Pena. Look, all right, guys, first and foremost, I want to go ahead and shout out my sponsors. I'm going to link them down below. Boomer Boost is going to provide you with all the supplements, vitamins, nutrient blends that you need to get your year kicked off right. A lot of people are asking me, hey, man, what are you doing? Why are you at the gym with so much energy? And I'm just like, look, I got to thank my sponsors. These guys are giving me all the best. And, you know, when we get spiritual, we want to get with nutrients that are spiritual. And these guys have that in mind. With the barley blend, it's unique. It is one of the most powerful things that I have ever took. And I'll be honest, man, I'll take this barley blend that they got, and within 20 minutes, I'll feel like a whole new electricity is running through me. I mean, like, the electricity levels inside of me are just sharp. They're literally like on a whole nother level. And man, okay, just go ahead, check them out. Boomerboost.com. Use the coupon code Joe30 for 30% off. Yeah, it's like totally mind-blowing. Am I right? 30% off. I had to like stutter in my head because I was like, wait, these guys are really just doing it for you guys. Hey, go ahead, take that coupon code. Also, hit up naturalaction.com for your water ionizers. You need these things to keep your plants on a very high level. I mean, I'm feeding my plants over here with these water ionizers. I'm just putting the water through the ionizers, and my plants literally they're freaking vibrating. Like they're so much bigger than anything that I've seen grow in the last few years. I'm like, it's just the water. Like, you know, you put a little bit of love in it too. You got, you know, I'm meditating. I'm hitting that right there when I'm feeding my plants, and you know that's a double charge. And so go ahead, hit 509 DP-10 for 10% off your orders of 2,500 or more, and 509 DP-20 for 20% off your orders of 2,500 or more. And if you want a 30% coupon code, hit me up in the DMs. I'm not going to drop that below. That one is too rare. You know, I just want to know if you guys are serious about this, and I'm going to be serious with you. I'm going to provide you a 30% coupon code. Just get in my DMs, and let's get straight to it. So today's guest, Stephen Gray. He has been traveling and taking spiritual and sacred medicine pathways for close to 50 years. He is a writer, educator, podcaster, psychedelic conference organizer, speaker, and cannabis ceremony leader. My friend, 509 Divine Pines is all about that cannabis. Stephen is the author and editor of 3 books, including the popular Cannabis and Spirituality, An Explorer's Guide to an Ancient Plant Spirit Ally, and the forthcoming How Psychedelics Can Help Save the World. Visionary and indigenous voices speak out. For the past 10 years, Stephen has been a creative director for the iconic Spirit Plant Medicine Conference in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. You can find that at spiritplantmedicine.com. Since 2020, Stephen has also been interviewing leading influencers in psychedelics and consciousness transformation. Is on Stephen Gray's Vision YouTube channel. Hey, Stephen, it's an honor to have you on, and thank you for being here. How are you?
No problem. I'm good, thanks. Just a minor clarification on the bio. That's a little bit old now, so it's no longer forthcoming, that book. It's has come. It's incoming, has come. So it actually was published at the end of November. And excuse me. And yeah, that's all. Yeah, it's been out for a couple of months now.
It's right here. And okay, so how did this all happen? Can you go ahead and tell my viewers a little bit about yourself and who you are and why you found all of this interesting? For me, I'm here in Pacific Northwest, and all around me, I got these trees, I got these herbs, I got this fungi, I got wine, I got a little bit of everything, the entheogens and all this plant medicine over here. And yeah, go ahead, tell my viewers.
Sure. Well, I'm in the Pacific Northwest too, on the north side of the international border.
Cheers. West Coast is the best coast.
Vancouver, Canada. Well, I don't know. It depends on how much you or your viewers want to hear. It's probably worth confessing my age just to put me in some kind of context that way.
Tell us everything, brother.
Oh, sure. I came of age, coming toward adulthood in the very end of the 1960s and into the early 1970s. And at that time, there was an explosion of interest in two elements of life that kind of dovetailed and overlapped and fed each other. And one was Asian spirituality, Buddhism, Hinduism, and things like that. And the other one was psychedelics, including cannabis, which, if you want to talk about that later, I would like to say that I consider cannabis a psychedelic, even though it's not technically or medically or scientifically a psychedelic in that sense. However, there was a great deal of interest in those things, and I got interested in them. A lot of people, and this is still the case today. A lot of people are interested in the psychedelics, like psilocybin and such, and not what you might call the spiritual aspect of those medicines or plants. I was one of the ones who was interested in both of those factors or elements. And so, but at the time, and this is one of the kind of important issues for these working with these medicines, in my view anyway, is this whole notion of set and setting, the kind of context that you do them in, and so on, the ritual context, spiritual, whatever, ceremonial. At the time, hardly anybody knew about that. So we just took it. LSD was the most common one at the time, and we just took it in kind of any condition or any situation, and that had its pros and cons basically. But later on, I started to find out more about those things. So I'll say that one of the ideas that was kind of floating around at the time was, okay, so you've had your great spiritual breakthrough or whatever on acid or whatever it is. As I say, LSD was kind of the leading contender in those days. But now what are you going to do for the rest of your life? How are you going to nurture and grow that budding spirituality within you? And you can't just keep taking acid every week, although some probably tried and with dubious consequences. So for a lot of people, it was like, oh, well, better start meditating or doing yoga or both or whatever, So for me, that led toward Tibetan Buddhism, and I got quite involved with that for about 25 years. Eventually started to move away from that as I started to see fault lines in the community and so on, which is another issue I won't get into. And at that time, seemed like a nice synchronicity or temporal coincidence. I started to find out about the work of Terence McKenna, who put those two sort of elements back together for me. The spiritual use of these plants having an ancient history, and that was going into the 1990s, and one thing or another led to me getting involved in several different ritual environments, led to me getting involved with this conference, led to me doing some writing and all this, and led to this moment. So here we are.
Okay. Okay, honestly, I have found records that cannabis and mushrooms has been used for quite some time. I just gotta ask, what is the oldest record that LSD has presented to you for its use in, society or even in shamanistic practices?
Okay, so let me see. Is there a subtext in that question? Like, are you making a not quite stated point about the youthfulness or lack of history of LSD
So
before
yeah,
I?
I mean, it's yeah. For my viewers, is LSD just something brand new that we've created? I mean, I know that it's ergot
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
found on
yeah,
a tree, but
yeah.
like, so is there no use? So there's no history of it ever being used before modern society?
Well, there are analogs, I think, that go back a long way because, but not exactly that. But I think the important thing to say about that, yes, of course, I'm aware of, a fair amount of the original history and so on of cannabis and mushrooms and some other substances. Um, but I think that the real point here, the what that really matters is, so let me put it this way. This is kind of like, I don't know, like a more less scientific way of putting it, I suppose. I don't know. Some people might even think of it as a sort of a woo-woo point of view.
I love
Um,
that. Woo woo.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so there's significant evidence that the plants have spirits. There are spirits involved in these plants, and they have the benefit, the well-being of humanity at heart. And so they'll get to us any way they can. This is why people do things like tarot cards, for example. You know, we're so bloody thick-headed. Can I
Mm.
swear in your podcast? Am I
Go for
allowed to
it.
use
Yes,
F
hey,
words?
uncensored here.
We are so fucking thick-headed, we humans overall, that spirits, the kindly bent to ease us spirits will find any way they can, and so they will come through tarot cards. I'm convinced of that. I've seen that happen a lot with tarot cards, and these medicines are a great way to get to us, because they open up channels in the brain, et cetera, right? As you probably know, Joseph, these tryptamine hallucinogens, for example, are very simpatico with brain chemistry. They're non-toxic. I mean, it's very hard to kill yourself, toxicity speaking, with mushrooms, and cannabis is pretty nigh impossible to toxify yourself with, as the great old cannabis advocate and folk singer-songwriter Willie Nelson once said, "The only way cannabis can kill you is if a bale of it falls off a truck and crushes you." Um, Point
Honestly.
being, though, that LSD, uh, I would put it in that same category. The story, I don't know how much you want to hear about the detail of it, but the story of its discovery is quite wonderful. Do you know anything about that history? Yeah. So shall
No,
I
I
tell
actually
your?
don't.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
let's go
Well,
ahead and hear about it.
yeah. Let me
That
tell you a
that's
little
just, that was
story.
that was kind of what I was asking. Like, what is the origin of LSD?
Yeah. Okay.
Like its
Well, I'll
real
tell you a little story.
origin.
Okay, I'll tell you a little story. It's been told in quite a number of places. Nonetheless, Dr. Albert Hoffman was a excuse me, was a chemist working for a major laboratory, famous actually, Sandoz Laboratories in Switzerland. And in 1938, he was asked by his employers to find a remedy for some condition. I don't remember what the condition was. He took this ergot and he created one iteration after another until he had come up with 25 iterations. Hence the proper term LSD 25. It's the 25th iteration of Hoffman's explorations. After all that work, he found that it didn't do anything for the condition that they were trying to investigate. So he put it on a kind of a back shelf. Now, the normal procedure, there's a reason for me telling you this. This is getting into the sort of the wonderfully woo-woo aspect of all this. Uh, the normal procedure at Sandoz, this is Hoffman himself saying this, was that they would never revisit a drug that did not prove useful for them. They would never do that. But he had put it on a back shelf. 5 years later, in 1943, he had an intuition. This is where the real fun woo-woo part comes in. He
Mm.
had an intuition that he should go back and look at this substance again. And he did. So he pulled it out again, and he got some on his fingers. As you probably know, LSD is active in minute doses, right? Somewhere around 200 micrograms. Like a microgram is a millionth of a gram, right? Not a thousandth, that's a milligram, a million. 200 micrograms is a pretty damn strong dose of LSD. So he got a little bit on his fingers accidentally and got into his mouth. And he had this sort of mild alteration, which fascinated him. So then he came back again, like a day or two later, or whatever, and took, I don't know what it was, 150, 200, 250 mics or something like that, thinking that this would be like a really safe, mild dose, and had a full-blown psychedelic experience, ego death kind of experience, unbelievably powerful. Have you ever heard of Bicycle Day? This is in honor of this famous bicycle ride that Hoffman took under the influence of the LSD. So that led to him producing it, and that was the origin of this medicine. And when I say the woo-woo part of it is this whole thing that he had an intuition, and I would like to think that the reason for that is because the spirits, as they were, whoever, whatever that is, thought, oh, here's a channel, here's a way that we can get into the minds of human beings and show them something really valuable, right? So the fact that it's actually a semi-synthetic, and it doesn't have a long history. Now we're talking about whatever that is, so like 80 years or something, is not an issue. It's not relevant. It's not a concern. It's part of the pantheon, as far as I'm concerned, and has great potential for the future.
I look at it fairly the same way. I understand that there is these spiritual aspects to it. So, I mean, in the ancient Vedic texts, they talk about cannabis being related to a guardian angel. And from there, I can take that into there being spirits alive in all these other plants and medicines and entheogens. And okay, I kind of look at it multiple ways that there could be tainting of these, some of these, and modern day cannabis and the recreational, like GMO strains, genetically modified, and they might be able to taint the spiritual aspect. And that's a whole nother topic for another day. But I actually do think that, there is some spirituality to all of these, and not just like it activates our spirituality, but no, in the plant itself, there's these ancient energies that we can relate back to. I mean, we look at how much they worship. I mean, I guess they would, worship is a word for how much they prayed and loved the Mother Earth, Gaia, and it being a lively, living planet and world. So I'm with you on that. I think that over time we evolve, and we hit different levels and different phases, different morphs of reality, and with that we morph into newer drugs, and we find newer ways to activate these ancient spiritual practices. We look at how much cannabis has evolved in the last 20 years as a whole. We see that we are hitting a newer level of awareness globally. We're kind of just trying to refine the practices now, and everybody's trying to make cleaner, better product and use less. So over time we evolve. And LSD, I don't really I don't really find it a bad thing. I mean, I understand that they did let's see, is one of the governments over there in France, they did spike a whole town's bread supply with LSD one time, and it made the whole town trip. But hey, that's the type of stuff that they do way back in the day. Hey, okay, so let's continue forward. Now, if where do you think we fall line with these spirits? Is there a different spiritual aspects that you found with these entheogens in their own manner? Or they kind of all fall to the same spirit? Do you think that there's multiple spirits or the same?
Yeah. Well, let me put it this way. In my cannabis book that you mentioned in the intro, Cannabis and Spirituality, and it's actually my favorite chapter because she's a wonderful writer, Kathleen Harrison, who, by the way, was married to Terence McKenna for 15 years in the heyday of the work that he did. in her chapter, Kathleen is she's brilliant for one thing, and she's quite wise for another thing, and she spent the bulk of her life working closely with indigenous people in Central America, in Mexico, and so on. And she says in that chapter that uh, all the indigenous people that she's ever come across all say that every plant has what she calls a mother. They all have a mother. Some of them have a strong mother, some of them have a weaker mother, but they all have a mother, which you might also think of or describe as an overseeing spirit for that medicine. So they are different. Um, uh, excuse me. And this is a whole kind of other line of thinking, but there are, when you're opening yourself up to these other worlds, there are other kinds of spirits that are not necessarily beneficent or wise. So that's another issue that people sometimes need to pay attention to. For example, this is maybe starting to get down a bit of a tangent here, but it's probably useful. I know a guy who's like quite a very powerful psychic, actually, and he worked with peyote a lot at one point of his life. He assisted for 20 years in certain kinds of ceremonies with peyote, but he's not that big on psychedelics these days, and the reason is because as he sees it, they open they kind of like dissolve the protective barrier that you might say that we have around us and open us up to just about anything. So if you're not in a properly protected kind of environment, you could expose yourself to energies that are actually harmful. And he told me a particular story that he knew 5 women who went to Machu Picchu, the famous site in Peru there, right, of the Inca. And they took, I forget I don't know if he told me which psychedelic it was. It might have been ayahuasca. I forget what it was. But in any case, all 5 of them came back to the States feeling completely haunted, like possessed, basically. And they needed a lot of therapy to, exorcise those demons, as it were. So there is that. But uh, this is why the sort of set and setting thing is really important from my point of view. Yeah, go ahead, take some mushrooms, in your in your parents' basement or whatever, you know. But there are risks involved in that. Especially for certain people, some people more sensitive than others. And not only are there risks, there are also limitations in a sense. If you come into this working with these medicines with an intention to wake up, to heal, to see truth that's beneficial in the right kind of circumstances with protection, oftentimes, then you got a much better chance of getting the deeper truths coming through. Anyway, yeah. So there are risks and dangers involved in them, but each one I think does have its own spirit. Was sort of the answer to your earlier question. Let's hope. Okay, so the reason I went into talking about the sort of the darker spirits is because uh, if you encounter them in the right kinds of circumstances, then there's a much better chance that the what you might call the mother or the true spirit or the beneficent or beneficial spirit of that plant will have access to you and be able to help you in that way, whether it's directly or indirectly, whether it's like appearing, in a visual form of some kind, or whether it's kind of whispering, wisdom in your ear, so to speak, right?
Yes, to add on to that, that is a lot of the research that I actually discussed too, how like we have these multidimensional aspects in our own nature. We can see different spectrums of light when we are in these altered states. I believe that entheogens have a very massive role in the way that we see reality through the visual spectrum, the UV, the hidden light, and what we cannot see in the skies. And what we think is clouds, I believe, are UFOs, and what we think of up above in the sky is very much a world of alien entities that we just can't see. We understand that the angels or even demons do exist in these different type of planes. I understand spirits are very present. I live just half a mile away from a graveyard, and yeah, I feel these things. And so I think that, yeah, like when we do open ourselves up I'm not wrong to think that when the government labeled marijuana a gateway drug, I actually agree with them. Because I look at these entheogens and I look at every type of drug as a gateway tool. And if cannabis is a very common one, and as you mentioned, and you believe it is psychedelic, I think so too. I've actually altered my state of vision on like 4 or 5 grams of cannabis oil, and it was actually one of the trippiest times of my life. I felt like I was a Buddhist monk in weird meditation at like after midnight. It was unbelievable. So like we do have to protect ourselves when we do open up ourselves to these other layers of reality, whether we call them electromagnetic as well. I think that when we open up certain pathways and like in our brain, we can be flooded. When we open up that pineal gland, we can be flooded by outside sources if we don't know how to protect ourselves. Personally, I started finding protection with incense and prayer and crystals, and not using hard drugs. I'll be honest, I was using cocaine for a minute, and it just flooded me, comparing to how I feel with mushrooms and cannabis. And on those two, I feel like there is some type of spirit that is trying to calm me down, comparing to these other hard drugs I felt like spirits were trying to attack me. And I could see it in society. If we look at society and just as a whole, we understand that right now, over the last couple of years, everybody's been turning to self-medication, whichever way they know how, whichever way they know best, whichever way they were raised. They are self-medicating more than ever. Cannabis, opiates, alcohol, all these different things. I know people are also turning them out to mushrooms. If we look at Oregon, now the gas stations have mushrooms, so that's cool. So everybody is self-medicating. I think now is the proper time to educate people on the different types of realities that lay before us and how we are truly connected to it. If we look at how the ancient ancestors were using these entheogens and shamanic practices, they were very much in tune with their spirit and how to protect themselves from these outside spirits. And it's a tradition lost. I feel that if it is a tradition being revived, though, with the help of the internet. And so we can, definitely feel that protection in our own spiritual nature is probably a very resourceful tool when let's just I'm gonna hit it. I'll be honest. I look at medicine and food, and I kind of see it in the same way as these entheogens. So if all these GMO foods are controlling and destroying the DNA, I think on some nature it's also allowing these other entities to come in and harm people, like just the same way as entheogens would. They open up a gateway, and if people's bodies and pineal glands are completely artificially and nanotech electronically being controlled from outside sources, hey man, that's the same thing. It's gateways being open inside of people. But that's a whole other topic for another day. Let's stick back to cannabis and entheogens, man. So protecting yourselves is very much important. Did you find any research? I mean, you said you went to a little bit of Tibet, and what was their aspect? What was their whole take on psychedelics and entheogens and shamanic practices?
Who, the Tibetans?
Yes, you said you. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I was a student of Tibetan Buddhism for quite a while. Well, unless it was buried information, I don't think the Tibetans were using substances much. They don't have a lot to work with up there on that very high, cold plateau. I'm not a historian in that sense, but Buddhism kind of supplanted a previous shamanic religion called Bon. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation. It's
I've never heard that.
Bon in Tibet. So we don't have any written record as to whether the Bon shamans and shamanistic practices involved medicine. So that's not really a major topic in terms of what we're talking about here. The Tibetans have shied away or just never really encountered them particularly, or it just maybe got pushed aside and not
What
put
about on
into
the
the
spiritual
historical
aspect
record.
of encountering other entities?
Well, the Tibetans were pretty amazing that way. So, so here's the kind of the bottom line about all this stuff, really, and I'm, obviously the book, How Psychedelics Can Help to save the world, is advocating for the wise and skillful use of psychedelics. However, the real bottom line, as it were, is that we're all capable of waking up, and it doesn't necessarily have to involve a psychedelic substance. So, uh, but I think the point about that, I want to come back to the Tibetans in a minute here, but I think the main point about that is that we, for the most part, in these modern cultures, have gotten so far away from ourselves. We've covered over so many crustacean levels, as it were, uh, from our sensitivity to being able to pick up other kinds of energies, intuitional energies, voices of the living intelligence of Gaia, et cetera, that we're hard nuts to crack, and we've also brought the planet to an abyss, to the edge of an abyss, to a potential disaster point where we need these kind of strong medicines to crack us back open again. However, these states of multidimensional states have been natural to human beings, and the Tibetans spent a long time on this plateau. They didn't have any television. Most people probably didn't even have much in the way of books or anything like that. And yeah, and they're all doing these kind of meditations. They developed some incredible abilities on the natch, as Terence McKenna might have said, naturally. For example, the teacher that I studied with, he was being raised to be the supreme abbot of a group of 7 monasteries in eastern Tibet. And in his autobiography of the early part of his life, he talks about some of the practices that they had, things that are far beyond our capability, most people's capability these days. For example, they didn't have television, or pardon me, didn't have telephones. They didn't have wires of any kind, basically. They didn't even have telegraph. They didn't have any of that stuff, any way to communicate with people at a distance other than in person. Put them on a horse and send them. However, what they did have, this would be the more advanced monks or whatever, was practices that could take them into such a deep state of trance-like state that they could actually communicate telepathically with people at a distance. And that's how this particular teacher, who otherwise would have spent his life in Tibet, and many others from the main city there, Lhasa, realized that they had to get out because the Chinese were coming. This is in the 1950s, late 1950s. Chinese were invading the country. Of course, they've now completely taken it over and fucked everything up. But at the time, they had breached the borders of eastern Tibet from China, and the people in Lhasa, which was further west, were going into these deep trance states and communicating and getting messages from the people in the border towns. And they were saying, they're here, they're on the way to you, you better get out. So they had that kind of thing going on. And then there's also one that's, there's a particular practice. This is probably one of many things those people could do. There's a particular practice called Tumo. I believe it's spelled Tummo. And that practice has been studied by scientists who are fascinated by it. So they've taken these monks and they've put them in the room and they've tested them out. And what Tumo does, and you would think this would be a very handy practice up on that frozen plateau, 15,000 feet above sea level and so on, is Tumo is a practice that allows people to heat their bodies internally, like heat them a lot. So the scientists were doing things like they're getting these monks that were supposedly adepts with this practice, and they were doing things like taking bed sheets and soaking them and then putting over top of these monks while they did this practice. And after a while, they saw steam rising off these sheets. So, humans have absolutely vast and amazing capabilities. And so in terms of answering your question, the Tibetans probably, a lot of them didn't need psychedelics because they already had access to these states. they have a lot of deities involved, and some of their practices involve connecting with these deities. And I know people that have said they have connected with the deities. And again, this is on the nats. This is without any kind of assistance from any kind of medicine.
Would these deities kind of correlate with some of the spirits that lay dormant in nature, or like any nature deities?
Well, I wouldn't say
Think.
I'm an expert on that, Joseph. As you know, as we
Okay.
both
All right. Just wondering. That's all good.
no, as we both acknowledged in the conversation up to now, is that there are all kinds of, angel and demon haunted realms all over the place, from all intents and purposes.
Definitely.
Um, I'm only interested in the teachers, in the good ones, and I've never, as far as I know, I have never encountered any sort of demonic energies of any kind with psychedelics. I think they know me, they've seen me, they want to help me. And my main spirit contact, if you will, with entheogens is I get sort of message downloads, like the strongest ayahuasca experience I ever had, and I've done 35 or 40 over a 25-year period or so, was in Peru. And I was at, one of these centers out in the boonies, out in the wilds of Peru, in the jungle or forest. And this ayahuasquero that was leading these ceremonies, he was really good. And um, I did 3 there over a course of a week or about 6 days. And in the second one, it was the strongest ayahuasca experience I have ever had before or since. Normally, he was pretty prompt. He started at 8 p.m. Normally, by around 3, you're kind of coming down. You're just, you usually can fall asleep somewhere between 3 and 4 in the morning. You get 3 or 4 hours sleep. They get you up around 8 or so in the morning, and then you have a sharing session. And so I never slept a wink that night. I was wide awake right through until the sharing session started. And at some point, I felt presences, and I've had the other experiences with ayahuasca where I felt presences. I say presences in the plural because that's what it felt like. It felt like it was a group or something, not an individual. And so in this particular one, I said, "Well, who are you?" And the answer I got back was, and this isn't like an auditory hallucination that you think you're actually hearing, an audible voice or anything, but it's telepathic. But the answer I got back was, "Oh, we offer love. It's limitless, it's unconditional, and the only thing you need to decide in your life is how much of it to accept." So that's the kind of contact I have. I've never had any kind of voice coming in and saying, "Mwahaha, we are the evil spirits. We're going to control you." Never had anything like that. Yeah.
Indeed. So
So that
this
I
would
think comes
lead,
back to say what?
and this would lead directly to my next question. So your book, how psychedelics can save the world through indigenous voices and so your own research. Let's dive into that. What do you think that needs to happen globally, or is it on a local level? Do you think it's a global level or a local level that this really needs to be tackled? And what is the message behind the entheogens themselves? I know you just mentioned briefly loving is very much a powerful message that these entheogens do give. I know when I started taking mushrooms and cannabis a little bit higher, like at least for like on a regular level, not like quantity. I meant like on a regular level, I would start like meditating with these things. I found myself wanting to go back into my garden and heal the land and heal my body. And so love and healing is definitely a message. Now, in your
Yeah.
terms,
Sure. So let me talk about it from a Buddhist perspective, because Buddhist teachings, Tibetans in particular, in my experience, have good language for some of this stuff. It's not about promoting one religion above another or promoting religion in any institutionalized form at all. In that sense, it's that the teachings are real; they're impeccable, basically, and so the core teaching, and it's again not the purview or the property of Buddhism or anybody else. It's universal. The core universal teaching is that, and again, I'm now using Buddhist language for that because it's straightforward, is that we are all awake by nature. That is our true nature. It's underneath all the trouble and turmoil and confusion and fear and anxiety and depression and weird beliefs that people have. It's underneath all that. It's the encompassing reality. It's what happens when you're able to, as my Buddhist teacher called it, land on what is. It's not a particular position or point of view or belief system in any way whatsoever. It's our true nature. It's who we are once all the other crap and confusion and overlays are all out of the way. That's the path. That's the quality, the path quality. So the real value of psychedelics is that they can open you up to that true nature. When they're done right, when you surrender to them properly, when they give you the teachings that are good for you, they show you what's real. They potentially show you what's real, what's more real than the so-called reality that we live in, that most of us live in every day. So the great big message, if you will, it's like the great open secret, as a way of referring to it, is that we are part of this. We are awakened beings in this divine, eternal reality. And the love is mentioned because it's a wave that's running through everything. It's sort of like, love and intelligence are the same thing, you might say. And so our job, our task as individuals, anyone who's open to hearing it, anyone who's open to working toward it, is to find the way through the thicket of our confusion. Because so let's talk about ego. People maybe understand that word in different ways. There's sort of, there's big ego. Like somebody has a big ego. That's kind of a separate thing in a way, or it's another angle on all this. But the spiritual or psychological description or definition of ego is that it's an illusion. That it's an illusion that we have this little self that's created by a bunch of beliefs and concepts and thoughts and all that kind of thing. And it's separate from everything. And so it automatically implies struggle and confusion, because we don't know what's real. We don't know what real, we don't know what we're doing here. People are constantly trying to explain, this is the way it is, or this is the way it is, but we don't know why anything exists, really, right? We don't know why this planet is floating around a sun, traverses, circumnavigates this sun every year, every 365-day circuit, and has just enough light and heat to keep most of it survivable, etc. We don't know any of that. Why are all these planets and galaxies? We don't know any. We have no idea why anything exists whatsoever. But we can. The point is that we can ultimately open ourselves up enough to know who we are in the context of this, divine, eternal, loving universe, or not even universe, just whatever it is. There's no word for it, really. Eternal existence. We can align ourselves with it to a great degree. And that's what Buddhist teachings call enlightenment. Okay, that's what they call awakened heart. So heart. It's really interesting that they say awakened heart, because they use the word bodhicitta, which is a Sanskrit word. Bodhi means awake, chitta means mind and heart, or what we would understand as mind and heart. Together, they're the same essential thing. So there is no awakening without the blossoming of the awakened heart. There's, if somebody thinks they're enlightenment, but they're not motivated by love, by compassion, then they're fooling themselves and oftentimes other people, you know, charlatans and whatnot. But again, I'm rambling a bit. But I'll just sum that up by saying that the message is, the ultimate universal teaching is that we are awake by nature. We can wake up to that reality, and now, at this particular juncture of history, we have to, or enough of us have to be able to influence the direction of affairs, like to start changing the way we relate to ourselves, each other, and the planet altogether. That to understand that we are just part of this intelligence, that we're just embedded into it, and that everything in that sense is alive. Like I was saying earlier about Kathleen Harrison, every plant has a mother. And although I personally can't say that I've had a direct conversation with a plant in that sense, like I've sat down beside a plant and said, hello to it, and who are you? And it said something back to me. I know people who have had that experience, that have had conversations with trees and so on. I mean, if you're a skeptic or a cynic, you might say, oh, yeah, right, bunch of woo-woo bullshit. But no, these are incredibly intelligent people, like Stephen Herod Buhner, who's an author of many books on plant medicines, and a most amazing book, one of my favorites of all time, that's called Plant Intelligence and the Imaginal Realm. And Stephen talks in some of his books about how he got to know the medicinal value of certain plants by sitting and meditating with them for hours and hours and hours at a time. And eventually the plant has communicated to him telepathically and saying, yeah, okay, we're like, this one particular plant said to him, oh, well, we're antibiotics for trees. We help keep the trees of the world alive. And this other one that he communicated with said, well, we don't normally talk to human beings, but since you're so damn persistent, I'm going to tell you, but you have to, if I'm going to tell you anything about what I'm capable of doing, you have to promise me two things. One is that you treat me and all plants as equals of humans, like as if they are another human. And the other one is that you share this. It's not for you. It's for you to share with other people. So there's all kinds of stuff like that. I have a friend who, I used to be involved with the Native American church, which is the peyote people, the peyote prayer ceremonies and so on. One guy that I knew, he got a message during the meeting overnight saying, go out and sit in the forest afterwards. And so he did. And he started getting teachings from trees, like actual, understandable teachings from trees. So yeah, I'm not sure what question I'm asking there, but that's
It
I
is
know.
all right. So
It's back to this. Let me just finish. It's back to this whole notion of what is this really all about? It's about waking us up to who we really are, to, as the book says, help save the planet for the generations to come.
okay, so there's a few things. Okay, I've myself have meditated with these plants, and the first time I started smoking cannabis, I actually meditated and found the terpenes in my own meditation, and I didn't know what I was thinking. I was like, is this correct? And then I started talking to my friends, and like some of them were like, dude, you're onto something, because they're like, I've started hearing about this terpene research, and some of my other friends like, yeah, you're way out of your league, because like you're not meditating and finding this out. And lo and behold, yeah, all this terpene stuff was definitely a thing. And just last year, while I was on mushrooms, on God, like I even told my cousins this. They asked me, like, dude, what were you doing? Like, were you asleep? And I was like, no, I was meditating, and the tree was giving me blueprints. And I was like, because I'm out here in the Pacific Northwest, man. This is, I'm on prime mountains. This is like, if I meditate out there in the mountains with a little bit of entheogens, I'm receiving something, and I feel it. I definitely do feel it. Now, I want to ask, how much did you find that these entheogens and these practices were being used in tribal or even prior civilizations and just around the world? I mean, personally, I believe it was a mighty common thing, but in your own findings, is it something that was really rare, or is this only for the elites? Is this only for the shamans, or is this a very common thing and throughout the world?
Well, it's an interesting question, and I'm not a historian in that sense, but I've done my reading and so on. And I think the simplest starting point answer for that is that it's wide variation. depending on the particular culture. As I say, the Tibetans, as far as I know, did not have powerful psychoactive medicine plants, but they had that incredible open, sensitivity that they could communicate with spirits and learn practices like the tumo that I mentioned, and the telepathic communication with people at a distance and that sort of thing. So, here's one, I hope I don't lose my train of thought here, because here's one thought about all that. And this Stephen Herod Buhner that I just mentioned also says this. He says, the mark of intelligence, what intelligence is the ability to adapt to changes in your circumstances and prosper and succeed and survive with all that. So a bird, a species of bird that's been around for hundreds of thousands of years, that's an example of intelligence. That bird and that species have survived because they have adapted to their circumstances, changing climates, changing environments, whatever it is. So intelligence is knowing what you need to know for your purposes. So even though we think we have the big brains, the little animals, even insects, bees blow my mind. Bees absolutely blow my mind how intelligent they are. There's this kind of a group mind, of course, but still. So it depends on what capabilities you have. And so in terms of your question, I think there have been many communities around the planet that through deep trance-like meditation or whatever. Oh, that's another example, by the way, the voodooing, that's sort of been corrupted into voodoo, for some people, but that's a religion with practices that comes from Haiti originally, before the European conquerors destroyed everything. And they knew ways to get into these altered states without medicines, right? And then there's the Sufis. Now, the Sufis are fascinating. The Sufis were and still are to a degree, but it's been really seriously watered down. Sorry, Sufis. I don't know. I think that's true from what I've read about the history of the Sufis. The Sufis are the mystical inner tradition within Islam, and they historically, that's, as far as I know, that's on the public level, so to speak. That's all been suppressed now. But historically, going back, I don't know, 1,000 years, 500 years, they were users of cannabis, particularly in the form of hashish. And for example, there's a Sufi poet named Fuseli from about 500 years ago who wrote, "Hashish is the Sufi master." That is a powerful statement. Hashish is the Sufi master. In other words, you can encounter the truth with the correct application of hashish in your life, right? In your experience. But as far as I know, the Sufis don't use cannabis anymore, not outwardly, not openly anymore. But they have these practices like the whirling dervishes. So this is, there's, I think, music going on. I'm not sure if there's music going on, but these people, they twirl for a long time, and I suspect that they get into some pretty interesting altered states through those kinds of practices. So yes, there is that. And yes, on the other hand, there are certainly, there are so many medicines in the world. If you think about it, think of yourself in some kind of a village, in a natural environment, which most places were up until relatively recently on this planet. Say you're in South America somewhere and you're surrounded by jungle and forest, and you got your village in a clearing or whatever. And you didn't have stores you could go to. You couldn't order on Amazon, etc. So you needed to know the utility of every single plant in your neighborhood. And they did generally, so you'd find out, by, some people would say trial and error, but the people themselves, in fact, that's how they say they found ayahuasca, that the spirits told them, like, here's this plant over here, because ayahuasca takes two plants, right? Like, how the hell did they find that around the great expanse of the Amazon jungle from people who apparently never met each other, although that's debatable because sometimes trading happened at great distances. But oftentimes it seems they didn't really know each other, but they still found these two plants out of all the millions in the Amazon. So how did they do that? the scientists, the sort of reductionist mind would say, oh,
Sheer
well, they
luck.
trial and error, but that's not what they say. They say that they were taught, and shown those. And so if you think about it, you would know every plant in your neighborhood. You would know which ones are good for food, which ones are good for medicine, which ones are poisonous. That's how aspirin came to us, because people in South America found a plant, curare, I believe it's called, or at least that's the substance, that they were putting on their arrow tips, which was poisonous. And they, shoot it at, for their hunting or whatever, or maybe in warfare. And curare became, if I'm not mistaken, became the source for aspirin. So you'd know everything, and then you would find out which ones were psychoactive too, like cannabis, for example. Cannabis has been around in some form or another for millions of years, millions, like dozens of millions of years. So, as people came into sort of civilizations, or larger congregations of people in the same area, they would know every plant, and it wouldn't take them long to figure out that, well, you had some extra stalks from the cannabis plant, and you threw it on the fire and you stood too close to it. The next thing you know, you go, oh, this plant has these amazing psychoactive properties, right? And so people, there's hundreds of psychoactive plants that most people don't even know about, So I think, speculating to a degree, but probably not really. Communities all over the planet would have found plants that altered minds. I think it just goes without saying.
I think the whole world has used these entheogens for a long time. I think that it's been passed down in traditions and through other dimensional aspects. I do think we have had maybe contact with other entities that maybe have led us here. And I just want to ask, so I think about all these like paganistic type of practices, or even the ideas of cultures were having to worship other animals. I just wonder, was there any type of like evidence or correlation with tribes doing these entheogens ever to like actually interact with certain animals? I understand that like some people can like tap into birds, or others in a wolf, or they would be able to channel the other animals. And that whole type of topic, what is your understanding on how these entheogens and like getting in touch with the connection of nature, how does it
Yeah.
relate to our connection with animals?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I would be, more, coming in as a reporter than an experiencer of that for the most part. But I will tell you one anecdote. The very first ayahuasca journey I ever took, which was, I think, around 1992. Excuse me. It was 2 nights. The first night was just to find out how strong it was, so hardly anybody had much of an experience. The second night, it was super powerful, and the guy was running the ceremony. And this actually sort of bleeds into this notion of proper context and dealing with people who know what they're doing too, that are running ceremonies, because there's lots of latter day, self-appointed shamans around that don't know shit, so to speak, and can actually be dangerous for that reason, for several related reasons in terms of ethics and so on, and power dynamics and all that kind of stuff. But if they don't know the spirits of these plants, they're missing a huge part of it. So this guy did know something about that. So what he said at the beginning of the ceremony was, if you feel like you're in trouble, come on up here. This was in a maloka, a yurt, and everyone was lying down on mattresses around the perimeter of this thing, including this guy. It was kind of different from other ayahuasqueros I've encountered who sit up in a chair and sort of oversee things or look over things. He laid down with the rest of us, took some medicine and laid down. Anyway, he said, if you're having trouble, yeah, right. If you're having trouble, come on up here. And he'd had a mattress put in front of him, and I'll sing you a song, an ikaro. And this is, the spirit part of it comes in too, because these songs are received, they're channeled, they're received. In the proper, tradition. So anyway, this medicine came on like gangbusters. and it felt like somebody had opened a sort of like a warehouse door, and everything flew out of it chaotically, and it just came on like a bloody freight train, and it terrified me. I didn't understand how to just stay with it or whatever. It was just such a powerful energy, like nothing I'd ever experienced before. So I felt really kind of scared and shaky. And so I remembered that the guy said you could come over, Alan, his name was, come over there. So I was on the opposite side of the yurt from him. I couldn't walk. I couldn't get up. I'm sure I would have fallen over. So I crawled across the room, tapped him on the foot, and said, you said if you're having trouble. And he said, yeah, no problem. Lie down. So I lay down on his mattress. He got up and he had this shaker thing called what is it called? Chicapa, which, by the way, was also discovered by people all over the jungle, the Amazon jungle, the same leaf for the same purpose, for clearing and cleaning and so on. And actually, I should tell you that just for the fun of it. He told us at the beginning, this leaf, you put it together in a bundle, so it's like a whisk thing, and you shake it, and it has a shaky sound, kind of like a gourd rattle almost, And he said people have seen it go to work, like where they're all in the ayahuasca space, and you're shaking it around somebody's head and so on. People have seen light beams come off it and go into the person and do healing work, and they've even seen when you pull it back, that it has got little like black balls or something attached to the light beams that it is pulled out of the person. So anyway, he sings at Ikaro, one of these songs, and kind of walks around me, shaking this shikapa around me. And at the end of it, he said, okay, sit up now. And he said, when you're feeling like that, it's just resistance to letting go into the medicine. So just trust. And I'm going like, okay, I didn't feel any different at that moment. So now he's back lying down. I got to go back to my spot. I still felt really shaky. I didn't think I could walk, so I crawled back across. When I got about 6 feet from my mattress, in no time, like suddenly, and I know this was real because I had never experienced anything even remotely like it, and I haven't still now 30 years later. A jaguar took over my body. It just took over, and I became the jaguar. I don't know if it was a jaguar exactly, but I say jaguar because that's one of the common experiences that people in the jungle talk about with ayahuasca, is that there are jaguar spirits, there are serpent spirits, and so on. Anyway, it was a large cat, and it became me. And I immediately went from feeling like this sort of shaky, scared person to being totally relaxed, totally graceful, and in a state of joy. And this jaguar walked me, or panther walked me the remaining 6 feet to my cushion and dropped me off and left me. But then I was completely transformed. I was in a state of absolute bliss for the whole rest of the evening. And when I mentioned earlier feeling presences, that whole night I felt the presence of some beings that I felt were like royalty. They were gods, sort of, And at one point I said like the same kind of thing that I said in that ayahuasca experience I told you about before, like, well, who are you? Basically the message came back as like, we're giving you guys empowerments. We're giving you guys energies to work with so that you can go and be helpful yourself, once you've done some of your healing work. So as far as animals, I want to say more about that though, because it's a really interesting one. As I said, I participated in a lot of Native American church peyote prayer ceremonies, and the fellow who ran a lot of them, they called him roadmen. He was a roadman. He told me exactly which animals he had the spiritual help from, and he said, like, I've got bear spirit, I've got wolf spirit, I've got eagle spirit, medicine, pardon me, that's the word. He says, I've got bear medicine, I've got eagle medicine, I've got wolf medicine, and a couple of other things. He said, I don't have any cats, no cat medicine whatsoever. But that means that people like that are super tuned in, that are super sensitive, that are super awake to the multidimensionality of things, can actually call upon those spirits. Like that same guy, Kanukas, he told us one time in one of the meetings, he said, relatives, the spirit talks to me And I say, and when I say that, I mean it literally. It actually talks to me and it tells me what to do when I'm running these meetings. It says, sing that song for that person over there who's suffering in that way right now. Or go to this person over here and give them a little extra medicine. They need to go a little deeper with it. Okay. That kind of thing. So there's no question. And as I said earlier, or a little while ago there, the Ikaros themselves, um, let me tell you one more little short one then, because it might be illustrative. Uh, that ayahuasca experience that I told you about in Peru, that was the strongest one I'd ever done. I wasn't going to do it again. I was going to come back 2 days later for the final one. And I told the guy in the morning sharing session, this is a Thursday morning, I said, I'm not going to come back on Friday night, because I got enough from this one to last me 6 months or whatever, enough lessons and material to work with. And he said, well, you know what? Because I'd talked to him a little bit what I felt about were my obstacles. And he said, well, you know what? Come on back anyway. You don't have to drink any medicine, but I've got an ikoro for you, a song for you. I just feel like this would be the right one for you. So I thought, fine. That night, the Thursday night, I got an amazing sleep, like 10 hours out like a light, felt completely refreshed and wonderful on Friday morning, and thought, okay, I'm going back. And I even felt good enough to take some medicine. But this time I thought I'm just going to take a little bit. So I took about a third of the amount that I had taken previous time when it was incredible, right? Like it's usually that medicine is, doing its full thing within about an hour. So like an hour and a quarter later, I'm just feeling this really, really sweet light buzz. No visuals, nothing. It was like a light, but maybe slightly clearer cannabis high. And I thought, oh, that's lovely. I'm going to have this really gentle evening. I'm going to get to sleep by about midnight. Wonderful. But then the shaman or the ayahuasquero calls you over individually to sit in front of him. And and he sings you an ikaro, and then they light the South American tobaccos called mapacho, and they blow it on you, which is another healing technique, right? So he did that. I go back to my cushion, and literally within a minute or two, clock time, I go from this, if you were scaling it on 1 to 10, it would be like a half of 1 to like an 8, almost as strong as the one from the 2 nights before. It was really strong. So in the morning when we're doing the sharing session, I said to the fellow, Ricardo, his name was, I said to Ricardo, I told him that, and I said, did that have something to do with that song you sang me, that Ikaro? He said, absolutely. He said, the Ikaros are spirits, they're beings, and they when you know them, when you've met them, when they have come to you and taught themselves to you, you have access to them, and you can call on. In fact, they'll come in and they'll say, oh, I'm the song for this situation right now, right? So that's similar to the animal spirit idea. So I think there's no question that the spirits of the animals are accessible to certain kinds of people as aids, as helpers, as allies. So there's my best shot at answering that question.
That works perfect. If you look at the ancient Maya and the Incas, they had a love with the jaguar, leopard. I mean, if you look at what Marvel was trying to portray with Black Panther down there in Africa, I'm sure it's the same thing. They worship they had interaction with the panther spirit, and I do understand that potion work from the ancient days and how to take these hallucinogenics that may in fact go ahead and involve you with certain spirits is actually very true. I find that very true. I mean, it's not like well known to people, but yeah, like I understand it. And I want to mention. So you said that two things, like that Ikaro was pushing in light ions. We there's these hidden spectrums of energy that we can't see. So it was also pulling out negative, dark energy, nions, and so also now the second thing, you mentioned that songs are kind of channeled through these entheogens into people, and I've seen like research on how the songs in the Bible, but per se, are very, very interesting. Like it's almost like they're being channeled into people because of how like what is it? How similar they are to other songs around the world. Like, all these songs around the world were like being channeled into humanity around the same times and just being passed down through the cultures and generations. And maybe some of these prayers. And I think it's just a fascinating thing that we have like proof, that we have been using cannabis. I do think that a lot of the cultures were using cannabis in their daily practice and altars. They were burning the resin, they are burning hash and into resin, and we were hitting different levels of vibration. I kind of think that the less we are with cannabis, like the less cannabis we have as a society or even an individual, we actually are spiritually lower. Like, we have this endocannabinoid system inside of us, and if we're activated properly and we activate it like on a really high level, we can experience some magical things. We actually feel protected. The more I smoke cannabis, the more I feel protected. And literally, so it's been about an hour, my friend. Do you want to take a break, or should we wrap this up for another day and continue it on another day?
Well, it's up to you. Well, actually, I think this is probably about a good time to wrap up for today. You had you had scheduled with me to do another one next week, and I'm
Yes,
happy to
sir.
do that if you feel like you want to continue it some more. Yeah.
Yeah,
I just like
absolutely.
to say, maybe I'll just, if I may, since we're wrapping it up for today, in terms of what we've just been talking about there, in contacting, spirits and animals and all that. I think the bottom line, what really matters about that is that one is aware enough of what's going on, and protected enough, like both of us have mentioned during this conversation, in the right kind of space, internally and externally, container, they sometimes call it, that you're going to be protected from the dark energies, that can, in fact, sometimes seemingly possess people or really screw them up and confuse them, and that you're only accessing beings of light, beings of kindness, beings of wisdom, beings of love, And so the bottom line, or the overarching issue with all that, has to come back to this notion that what we need is a widespread planetary consciousness transformation, and that it's there. It's almost like it's just beyond the horizon. It's as if we're all kind of walking around under a cloud, but just above that cloud is the light, and it's there all the time, and it's accessible. We just need to find out how to allow ourselves to let go of all the things that are standing in the way of that, so that we can open ourselves to that light, that wisdom, that love, that intelligence, and that's what's going to save the planet, if anything's going to save the planet. And I don't know if I said this earlier on, because I actually had an interview earlier today when I might have said the same thing, um, but I would like to just say that cynicism and just dismissal of the potential for an awakening on the planet, uh, even though you can make all the logic you want about that and make it sound like that's the only way things are going to happen, is that it's just going to, turn into a, worse and worse situation on this planet. But that is a dysfunctional attitude. The only sort of ongoing state, you may have to come back from bouts of doubt and despair and depression, but the only functional attitude to maintain is that we are awake by nature. We can access that. And basically, we need to. And it's not for ourselves, even. I mean, it is for ourselves on one level. We're all capable of experiencing the joy of life, but it's also particularly for the generations to come. That is, we are, as one of the contributors to the book, Tyson Yunkaporta, the Australian Aboriginal brilliant guy, says we are a custodial species. We are responsible for the future of this planet. There's so many of us. It's our responsibility now. We are a custodial species. So I'd like to leave it with that sort of larger picture there, that regardless of all this other stuff and whatever plants you're taking, whatever practices you're doing, it all comes down to this one overarching, reality or issue, that there is a massive wake up needed. It's not about beliefs, dogma, concepts, anything. It's about landing on who we are and what is for the benefit of the whole, as it were. All right.
I agree. In this time, especially over the last few years, I think it is very vital that we all come together to heal and
Sure.
take the
Yes.
proper steps forward. And that is a wonderful message, my friend. Let everybody know where they can find you, Stephen, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, we'll have a website. You can tap in there, and I think there's a contact form there. It's StephenGrayVision.com. So it's spelled StephenGray. Some people try to spell Gray, Grey, but it's Gray. StephenGrayVision.com. StephenGrayVision.com. Also on Facebook, under Stephen Gray Vision. I don't know if it matters, but the title of it is Stephen Gray mushed together. It's all one word, Stephen Gray Vision. And I'm also on Instagram under that name, and I just started doing some things on TikTok recently, also under that name or that logo or whatever. And also another thing that people might check out is spiritplantmedicine.com. That's the website for our conference, which is now heading into its 12th year. We don't have any information up yet for this year, but we will in the next few months start putting up pictures of bios of the speakers that we'll have for this year and so on. It's a wonderful conference here in Vancouver. It's really special, and I really mean that. That's not a boast, because everybody's in the same room. There's like 500-600 people in one room for 3 days. We don't break out rooms or spread it around or anything. So we go through an experience. We almost call it a ceremony. It can be so powerful, and we get a lot of the leading figures in this work. Dennis McKenna, Paul Stamets, many others have come and spoken at this conference, and we will still continue to get them. So I hope people will check that out as well. Oh, and the YouTube channel, also Stephen Gray Vision, Stephen Gray mushed together, and then Vision, where I interview a lot of these same people. All right. So thanks for asking that question, and I hope people will get in touch. If anyone has a real sincere question or topic they want to talk about with me, I'm open to that.
Sincerely, hey, it's been a wonderful day, my friend, and you have a grand evening, and I'll see you next week. God bless.
All right, thanks. You too. Cheers.
Cheers. You heard that, my friend. So I'm going to take a quick break, and we will be back for some news. So before I do that, go ahead, check out tweedlefarms.com for your hemp, your CBD, your lotions, tinctures, topicals, concentrates, whatever you guys need. They got it, and they got all these different varieties of flavors, cannabinoids, terpenes, and they ship locally from the West Coast in Oregon. They are quick with the package. Hit the coupon code below 509 Divine Pines for 20% off your order. Hey, also, go and check out eagle-research.com and use coupon code 509 Divine Pines for 20% off your order for a Aqua Cure water enhancer, man. Look, we just need to take ourselves to the next level in general. What's ahead is a lot of people trying to de-level us, de-platform us, and take away the man. I'm lower middle class, somewhere, I'm not even middle class. Okay, dude, but people got to realize these elites are trying to take out anybody below them. We got to level up. We got to do it. All right. Use coupon code 509 Divine Pines for 20% off your order. Heal yourself. You can heal all sorts of things. And I'm not a doctor, but hey, I'm telling you the truth, dude. You know what I do. I'm going to be back with a break, and we are going to play a song for you. Okay, let's run it.
Not new, what I do. I've been at it for a minute, pursuing, doing the damage. New, I would do everything that I said I would do. I gotta have it, so goddamn it, I'ma be everything I plan to be. Glad to see money coming my way, believe I'll achieve anything I put my mind to, or at least I try to. I'm avoiding my doom, manifesting my room. Meditate to ease the flow. Third eye open, see the golden energy. It can enter me, get me to feeling full. Forget my enemies, dead to me, yeah, I proceed to go to a new dimension. Gotta mention it's inside our soul. Go inside, fuck the outside. Never tell lies, show pride for belief. Gotta keep the range wide, so instead I just write another hit. Getting fried, rolling up, smoke another blunt for the good times. Good times, bad times makes for the good rhymes. So it never matters, I just learned, no I can't hide. Thank God for every second was birthed with the mind of an ancient soul who's just waiting for the next sign. I'm always watching, vision like a hawk, have 'em flocking. When I drop it, I'm talking, have 'em knocking. The knowledge that I'm dropping, I'm coming out the noggin, I'm logged in. That's the intuition, nothing wrong with doing what you feel is right. Everybody got this. Usually feel it in the night when I'm dropping knowledge. I never even needed any college, abolish people telling people what they want. I do not wish control over anybody, do it for the profit. That's the reason that they push it, do it from the cockpit. Cause they got the money, want the money on the mob shit. On the mob shit. But I know they ain't gon' make it, shit is poppin'. At the end of time, new age topics. Revolutionary crusade cross. Here we go to a new space. Yeah, we enter in a new place. Louis V on my shoelace. Gonna go far, that's what we on the run for, go hard. Sipping gin while we sitting, spitting those bars. Getting rich, got a vision, get the show cards. Lot of money laying around cause we go hard, always go hard. Spitting fire, see the sonar, hope they resonate with the vibe. Feel like Mozart, really I'm alive in my soul, feel like Mozart. That's what hoes are, too explosive so I show art. Yeah, I make art, sad to see people with no heart. I work to replace all of the negative, I go far with it. I'ma show all of these bitches, no complaining if you with it. Don't you dream me, see the vision, need my energy, the mission. Really take all my precision every single day. I picture where I'll be the day we get it. Feed the brothers, feed the fam. I don't really give a damn. I don't wanna get famous. I wanna lend a hand. Give the cash and rubber bands to the people always standing on my side, always down the ride. Say I planned it. I'm the guy, like the supersized on the planet. In my mind, I don't gotta try, I already have it. I'll be doing damage. I was born a savage. In my mind, I already died, living lavish. Heaven is a state of mind, be glad if you have it. Living in a simulation, be patient to grab it. Universe will bring it to you if you ain't an average. If you live an average, then Satan found to manage your life. I'm just trying to tell you if you gonna roll the dice, gamble in your life instead of living precise. I ain't perfect, but I'm gonna earn it. No, it don't concern anybody but my person. Lesson that I learned is that people are gonna burn. Anything you do, they gonna pay the price. Nothing nice come in life for the dipshits. They just wish shit, never gonna manifest it. Never catch me resting, short-term blessings. I just want my brain to work so I can write my next hit. Ignite the blessings, manifest my life, never question a moment in my life. I be knowing that it's meant to be, this my destiny. All the rest of my life really history. The day that I'm finally gone, they'll be missing me. Your position be the reason that I'm gone. 200 songs done, I've been on the run. I ride a wave, make a way, I'm the one. I stay the same, but I'm changing a ton. Rearranging my brain for the gains through the sun. I've been absorbing the light, I could say that I won. At least I'm conscious of what I'm doing, praying a ton. Relay all the information, staying patient with the shit. I write a hit just to get through all the shit. I ain't a bitch, so I'll make it. I ain't dealing with a prick, I'm finna take over the game. Really, I'm getting in, I'm really glad that you're here to witness it. I'm about to fix entire rap game. You could call it magic, like a trick. Classic with the way I spit it. It be clapping when it hits. I be snapping on this shit. I've been rapping, feeling lit. I'm
We are back. All right, guys, I'm going to run down some news for you. I think I'm just going to do the same old thing I usually do and give you guys the truth. First and foremost, Robert W. Malone is talking about High Rez's new rap song. Have you guys heard it? 2 + 2 = 5. You guys think it's just another rap song, but it is actually yet another example of a 5th-generation warfare weapon from our side, the true side, that has been deployed into the information stream. Do us all a favor, pass on the link to others. High Res always got said truth. Look, man, I've been listening to High Res for about 8 years now, and dude, this guy is cool. Go ahead, check that song out. Hey, let's continue forward. So we got from livescience.com. Unicorn-like blind fish discovered in the dark waters deep in Chinese cave. Researchers stumbled across a bizarre species of blind cave fish with a mysterious horn-like structure protruding from its head and lack of scales or pigmentation. We see the fish right here. I'm going to zoom in. You see this creepy ass thing. Looks like I'm not even going to say. It looks weird, man. It looks like you can find this in a chick's upper jaw, down bottom jaw, whatever. You know what I mean? Dude, it's freaking weird. It got some weird horn. Like, dude, see, that's all I gotta say. These horn-like structures can vary in length and either be forked or non-forked. They have something likely to do with living in the dark, but researchers just don't know. They possess 2 pairs of whisker-like barbells they use to feel around the dark. This has never been seen, so the DNA is being analyzed, and it just goes to show we really don't even know what's in our water still. Like every day, new things are popping up, and it's freaking us out. Dude, what is this? If you've seen this, someone would have a heart attack these days with how soft they are. They'll be sudden adult death syndrome caused this shit. Caused by this. Oh my god. Next up, Gizmodo. Cut marks on 125,000-year-old bones suggest Neanderthals butchered giant elephants or woolly mammoths. They're not saying that, are they? Yo, I mean, honestly, look, I've been telling you guys, our humanity, at least in records, goes back 400,000 years, at least, spectatively 1 million years, and that's just far time away. I mean, it's unbelievable, but we do got a lot of because becoming more and more scientists and archaeologists are not scared to talk anymore because everybody has money, everybody has the internet, so people can actually openly come out with these and not cook up to the mainstream spots in the limelight. If you just gotta look with your eyes, man, these things are coming out here. So geez, look at this giant elephant. Looks like what you would see in Lord of the Rings, what you see in these ancient wars, like 300 and all this. Nowadays he's like 2 times the size. This is like 3 times the size of a human, and this is probably a small one of this. So I'll probably like 4 size. Let's just say hypothetically the woolly mammoths were a bit bigger than these guys, and so woolly mammoths were like fucking. This kind of looks like a dinosaur, but that's one on the topic for another day. These scientists recently analyzed bones found on the Neumark Nord, an archaeological site in central Germany that has been excavated primarily between 1985 and 1996. In total, the archaeologists' original team recovered 122 elephant remains, comprising of about 70 individual elephants. Interesting. We calculated that a 10-ton elephant, which is not the largest one, could have yielded minimally 2,500 adult Neanderthal daily rations. So, oh shit. These things were eating, is what they're saying. These things were eaters. They hunted, ate, and acted very much like our own species. when I talk about Neanderthals were very much like Homo sapiens, and I guess around 40,000 years ago they were eventually taken over by Homo sapiens, which is about the time of one of these cataclysms that they speak of, about 32,000, 40,000 years ago. Interesting. Neanderthals knew what they were doing. They knew what kinds of individuals to hunt, where to find them, how to execute. And they knew what to expect with a massive butchery effort and even larger meat return. So what they're saying is that through this evidence, our ancient ancestors were far more savage. So over time, I guess maybe we have been degraded. Who knows? Looking forward, though. This is from iflscience.com. 500-year-old necklace with links to Henry the Eighth found by metal detectorists. Now look at this interesting jewelry. Hey, this looks like some fine piece of art. To think that our ancient ancestors, even 500 years ago, were stupider and that they were just, commoners and slaves. They didn't have any type of real, true skill. Like, man, this is interesting. This looks like it lasts. I mean, this looks like it's in pretty good condition. I mean, just a little bit of, it could use a little touch up, but pretty good. I mean, gold lasts, so, it just depends on the person behind the gold. Now, look at this necklace, also featuring an elaborate clasp with glove hand design. Interesting. You don't even see that these days. You see something far more simple. This is pretty intricate. It's a glove at the end to attach on, pretty much to attach onto those two little dingies. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. This beautiful pendant is a thrilling discovery, giving us tangible connection to Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon, and enriches our understanding of the royal court at the time. It is wonderful to see the archaeological and metal detecting across the country thriving. They hope that these passions can help us understand our national history. The pendant is decorated with a Tudor rose motif and pomegranate bush, as well as the inscription Toves Ailleurs, a pun on the French for always. The reverse shows large letters H and K, believed to referring to the royal couple. Interesting. The heart-shaped piece is embellished with red and white floral designs. Pretty cool. Just a simple piece of news. Now, let's talk about something a little bit realer. Facebook drains users' cell phone batteries intentionally, says ex-employee. Look, dude, I've experienced it myself. I've wondered, man, why is my phone dying so much faster? People actually talk about it. Dude, it's like when I'm on Facebook, my phone dies. It's not just because you're on an app on your phone. It's actually because of the people behind it. As reported by the New York Post, these Facebook developers are doing what they call negative testing, and allows tech companies to secretly run down the batteries on someone's phone in order to test features on an app or to see how an image might load. So they're just draining your battery because they want to. Hayward was fired by Facebook parent Meta for refusing to participate in negative testing. I said to the manager, this can harm somebody. And she said, by harming a few, we can help the greater masses. Any data scientist worth his or her salt will know. Don't hurt people, he told the Post. Hayward was axed by Meta in November and originally filed a lawsuit against the company in Manhattan federal court. The 33-year-old worked for Meta's Facebook Messenger app, which delivers text, phone calls, and video calls between users. In the suit, Hayward's attorney, Dan Kaiser, pointed out that draining users' smartphone batteries puts people at risk, especially in circumstances where they need to communicate with others, including but not limited to police or rescue workers in case of emergency. The suits had to be withdrawn because Meta's terms of employees forced Hayward to argue his case in arbitration. Kaiser said that most people have no idea that Facebook and other social media companies can drain your battery intentionally. Common on the practice of negative testing, the lawyer said, it's clearly illegal. It's enraging that my phone, that the battery can be manipulated by anyone. Originally hired in 2019, Hayward was receiving a 6-figure annual paycheck from Meta. But when it comes to the company's request to perform negative testing, Hayward said, I refuse to do this shit. It turns out that you tell your boss, no, that's illegal. It doesn't really go over too well. At one point during his employment at Meta, the company handed Hayward an internal training document titled How to Run Thoughtful Negative Tests. The document included examples of how to run such tests. After reading the document, Hayward said that it appeared to him that Facebook had used negative testing before. He added, I have never seen a more horrible document in my career. Oh, man. So, guys, this is big. This is a big piece of news. As you guys know, yes, there is a target on Twitter files that there's these outside agencies, these letter, private agencies who are sending aids to make restricted and ridiculous rules to go ahead and target and use against commoners and dissidents and people who say the right thing, but against the mainstream and the powers that be is the wrong thing. Now, so that's all getting exposed. With it, we are secretly understanding that yes, some of these companies have taken the stupid decision to try to implement some ridiculous laws that their employees don't do it. Right here, Facebook employees saying, "No, I'm sure it's the same for Instagram. The same thing for Twitch. I'm sure it's the same thing for all companies. These employees are fighting back. These dudes don't want to go ahead and commit to authoritarian type of dictator type of rules and regulations, And we're seeing it now coming out in the open that these things are real. Okay, look, I personally now, just after reading this, I kind of want to remove my Facebook app and block it from my phone. I'm clearly at a conundrum. I don't use Meta, the metaverse. That's bullshit. But look, guys, we need to be aware about these systems for all of us. I mean, this isn't just a conspiracy theory anymore. Like maybe 5 years ago, it would have been a conspiracy theory. Like, hey man, it's like, man, doesn't it seem like my phone is dying much faster? And then everybody's like, it's just a theory. We don't have any proof. But now we have the proof. It's 2 sources, one from the New York Post and one from phonearena.com. You can go ahead and use the research yourself and warn your brothers. If you are actually tripping out why your shit's dying so fast. Me, personally, I'm wondering why my shit's dying so fast. I'm now seeing it's because I've been using Facebook more. I know that goes against what a lot of people would think, for free speech and truth is, but no, I still got thousands of old followers, and so hey, it will do what you can because this world and these companies are trying to harm us. As you just seen, there was harming a few people will save the greater good. It's no. That's not how it goes, buddy. Let's not get drowned in the salt. So let's move forward, guys. The 3 rappers have been missing for 10 days since their scheduled performance was canceled. Detroit police say, we're not hearing about any of this shit. If it was Kanye, it would be all over the news. If it was, Jay-Z, it'd be all over the news. But why? Why aren't we hearing anything about this? Multiple Michigan agencies are investigating what happened to the 3 local rappers who went missing 10 days ago after a performance at a club was canceled, Detroit police say Monday. Armani Kelly, 28, Dante Wicker, 31, and Montoya Givens, 31, were all associates who were supposed to perform at a club at Detroit on January 21st, according to Michael McGinnis, commander of major crime, said. It's our understanding that the performance got canceled, and from there, we just have a whole lot of unanswered questions that we are trying to find out, McGinnis said. All of their phones stopped having activity by the early morning hours of January 22nd, said the mother of one of the victims the next day made a report of the missing person. That mother became very proactive in the investigation and started searching for her vehicle through OnStar. Oh shit. The mom found the car in Warren, Michigan, McGinnis said, where authorities recovered the car on January 23rd. By January 27th, information about Kelly's disappearance was spreading throughout social media. Once that happened, other family members and other missings come to realize that a friend or their loved one, and they haven't seen them forever, so they both get reported missing. That's horrible writing. We want to find them and get them home to their loved ones. Really think about the victims' families in this case. They have no answers. They don't know where the loved one is. We need help, McGinnis said. If somebody knows something, we're asking something. And like we're asking anybody for this information. Oh my God, this is just recent, guys. This is real. This is live. If anybody is in the Michigan area, Chad Smith podcast. If you're in the Michigan area, and you are, and Big Willie, you guys go ahead. I mean, Growcast, keep your eyes out. I don't want to be on Dateline in 20 years to find his body, Kelly's mother, Lori Kemp, said. They're putting flyers all around Lansing in an attempt to find her son. And so, guys, just we're gonna play this. This is real. I feel like I should play this.
Whether they made it to the venue or not. Armani Kelly's mom was set to perform about 4 doors down from here. And Detroit police are actually still trying to figure out whether they made it to the venue or not. Armani Kelly's mom was the first to report her son missing. She came out here and put these flyers up, but she doesn't think she's going to find him alive.
I don't want to be Dateline and wait 20 years to find his body.
Armani Kelly's missing persons flyer sits in a pizza shop window in North Lansing.
This is our home. So that's why I came here. We did all these areas. We're just now finishing up.
Lori frantically searching for her son since last week. Kelly's a rapper. He came to Detroit on January 21st to perform at Lounge 31. His fiance says he texted her to say it was
Monday rolls around and we still heard nothing. And that's when she went and filed a missing persons report. And then I drove 4 hours to pick her up and then 3 hours to Detroit.
Kemp was forced to file a police report in Oscoda because that's where she last saw her son. But after tracking his car, she realized it had moved 3 times in the city of Warren, ultimately found here at this condo complex by police.
I'm doing everything I possibly can. I'm out there hitting the roads, hitting the pavement. Where is the police department? They didn't do their job.
Kemp feels like her cries were ignored until police agencies in multiple jurisdictions, including Detroit, realized 2 other men, Dante Wicker and Latoya Givens, were also missing, and they were reportedly riding with Kelly to the show.
The fact that the 3 of them are missing together is very concerning and very alarming for us.
Kemp thinks her son may have been set up by someone he met behind bars.
I'm angry because you did 8 years in prison and you didn't die. And now you come out and they kill you. He's dead. I don't care. I love that people are optimistic. And I love that they think there's hope. I know in my gut, I'm the mother.
Do you have the same feeling as Lori that he is no longer alive?
I can't think like that. I can and I do, but I will not believe it until I see proof.
Police are still looking for any information that may help them find these 3 men. So if you know anything, call 1-800 Speak Up. In Detroit, I'm Alex Bozargian for 7 Action News.
Now, look, dude, I would never take. Well, I guess I would never say never, but Detroit, Michigan is a very risky place, dude. Aleister Crowley created a like satanic temple and had this satanic altar right there in Detroit, Michigan. There is a satanic, a upside down pentagram that runs through the city of Detroit, Michigan. There is a whole bunch of satanic practice there. I'll be honest, I'm telling you the truth. That is true. Like, that's also why you see Eminem always have like this devil worship aspect to him. And you know, he gladly freaking comes from Detroit. There's more to meets the eye with all this shit. And so I really hope for the best. I look from what his mother and his girlfriend were saying, it sounds like they knew something was up. Like they knew somebody was coming. They knew something, you know, happened in 8 years of prison that, you know, maybe he met some shady people. Man, like it's crazy. I guess, just prayers. Hope for the best for him. Let's move forward, guys. Yeah, okay. Well, let's laugh a little bit, man. Okay, we talk about AI, the good and the bad, but let's just talk about the stupid for a quick second. Like, I mean, literally, look at this, guys. So, oh man, I just refreshed this. Oh yeah. Well, somebody asked AI to create a model of hand language, or create new hand language, or create their own interpretation, whatever. They asked for AI's opinion on hand language, and I think you guys seen a quick little glance for all my viewers at home. Just look at this picture. So this is what the AI was giving out, and if this is what some of these AIs are really putting together, then we'll all be out of a job soon and we'll all be dead. Wait, what is this? This guy's even confused. He's like, what? You look at, man. Okay, there's 6 fingers. Here's 5 fingers and a turd. Here's, I don't know, about like 4.5, 5.5, 6.5 fingers. Who even knows? I don't know what this is. They're throwing up a gang sign up here on the top right. Yeah, these are hilarious. It's like what you seen in Scary Movie too. You know, my good hand. So one of them is just a fist. I think a fist. Looks like he has. Looks like he has a foot as a hand. The second bottom left one looks like he's throwing up West Side. Man, this is what AI is thinking, huh? They're gangsters. Look at, they're up gang signs, West Side, and you know, 2 in the pink, 1 in the stink. Oh man. Yo, this one has no thumbs. This is like a bear paw or something. This is straight up an animal paw than as a human. Man, I don't know what type of humans AIs be uncovering, but this guy's even all the bullshit that it spurted out. Now up here, you are seeing this right on the top left. They have a hand as a head. So they call that what? What do they call that? There's some cartoons for that. Yo, dude, look at this, man. If this is what AI is up to, then for sure this is what everybody's saying. AI is gonna kill us. Yeah, definitely with this type of crap. I don't even have that big of hands, first and foremost, but they think that this dude has a hand for a head that's as big as a head. So, man, that hand is like as big as Shaq's hand on top of someone's body. Crazy. Has like 10 fingers and a whole bunch of weird appendages too. They call it, okay, AI even named it Ihonealil. Ihonealil. Lilila. Iho nina lil. So who cares? AI is stupid sometimes. And hey, that's why you can't really trust computers with everything. Right? So let's stick it back to home for all my local viewers. Yakima Company puts new chips. So these guys are taking shipping containers and remodeling it. Heating, cooling, and all the stuff that you need. So they're actually making shipping containers and remodeling them for Camp Hope, the homeless encampment. So Camp Hope has purchased a second one. They already have one, and they're now building a third one. Mike Clay, the director of Camp Hope, met a Habitat for Humanity representative, Stolten now, who's working on a project for a nonprofit, and Kay serves on the board. So they've just been working together for a long time, I guess, is what the thing is. And this is cool. This is a good partnership. They're looking out for the homeless community. These each cost $37,000. Now, I also posted an article about how the Yakima commissioner just recently declined about $2 million in COVID grant funds that were handed down through the state of Washington. And so they sent back $2 million, right? We got handed 4. They sent back 2 because they were like, well, we have too much. No. These stupid ass commissioner could have used the $2 million to make a lot more of these homeless camp, shelters, and they could have restored Camp Hope. But no, hey, at least some people are doing good, while some people want to be jackasses. Hey, this is the good side, I guess. And mental health experts are provided on the design. Triumph Treatment Services are helping on the design. So a lot of people are actually coming together and to help on this. This is fascinating. This is cool to see people off the side of the streets and actually, put into proper places. That's good, man. The world has the money and space to clear homelessness and to clear world hunger. We just have to put our brains to the level, put our backs to the freaking metal, and do the damn job. All right. And so I commend this. This is amazing work. Look at, there's a little preview right here. So they'll be able to. They're like small train, especially. We kind of seen this in the Super Bowl. Am I right? Remember, everybody remember the Super Bowl last with Suits and Dr. Dre or whatever. They were all the West Coast dudes. They were standing on shipping containers, and everybody was wondering about them. I kind of think that some of these middle higher class people are taking a note out of the elite's playbook and saying, oh, you guys want to put us in shipping containers? How about we, like bad shipping containers? They want to stick bodies in shipping containers on a very bad level. You remember Australia? Australia had, they had you in a prison camp. This Camp Hope, I don't think it's going to be like that. What I'm saying is that people are trying to turn the technology for the good instead of just have it, in a depressive state. So it's pretty cool. I'm glad that my county is part of this. Now, secondly, for Washington State, homegrown cannabis bill introduced in Washington House. House Bill 1614 was introduced by Democratic Representative Shelley Kioba and is co-sponsored by Spokane Representative Timmy Orsby. The bill would define anyone who possesses homegrown cannabis as an ultimate user who cannot sell products of cannabis and is not required to get a registration. While the bill allows limited growth of cannabis, it also introduces a number of restrictions on home growers' production of cannabis while being used to provide early childhood education and early learning services by a family daycare provider. Growers would also need to keep plants out of public view. The bill includes punishments for growers who leave cannabis in an area where they should reasonably a person under 21 years old may gain access to it. So, they're just saying, clean it up, and you now can grow 6 cannabis plants at home. So this bill would make it legal for us to grow 6 cannabis plants. Awesome. This is awesome. Look, more freedom, more green, more weed, more trees. We got this thing going on, guys. Hey, it's good. It is good. Life is good. Now, also what I want to talk about Washington State, inside the movement to revitalize. This is from the Seattle Times Education Lab. So locally, just about 30 minutes away, Wapato, Yakima County. From the moment they walk through Roger Jacobs' classroom at Wapato High School, just south of Yakima, students are immersed in the language of the Yakima Nation, Indian tribal language. The walls are covered with posters and whiteboards with feature phrases in Ishishkin, and feel nearly every inch available of space around the room. Stacks of books, including dozens of copies of a thick Ishishkin dictionary, sit on shelves designated for different students in each class period. Jacob, who started out as a science teacher, used to think that there was no way he would ever have the patience to be an educator. But one thing has kept him at the job is the joy of teaching the language of his people. He's been doing it for over a decade. He says he enjoys it, and he hopes that he comes through the kids to teach it very well. This class is part of the growing movement across Washington to revitalize tribal languages. With 29 sovereign nations within Washington's borders, efforts across the state vary as the tribal elders put nearly lost language to paper in schools. State officials and tribal leaders partner to offer classes and communities. Jacob, who is 56, grew up hearing the language spoken by his family, some whom learned it before they learned English, and picked up what he calls a pretty good vocabulary along the way. Knowing there was a risk that the language could die out with the passing of the Yakima elders, he started taking classes under the mentorship of Yakima elder and linguistics expert Virginia Beavert. Beavert co-wrote the Ishishkin dictionary that Jacob and his students use no simple task, since Ishishkin uses his own unique 47-letter alphabet with combinations of symbols to indicate different stress points that can change a word's entire meaning. Ultimately, Beavert encouraged Jacob to become a teacher after he started helping her lead some of the classes, but Jacob didn't plan on becoming an Ishishkin teacher even after he started his career in the classroom. He went to school for natural resources management before becoming a science teacher. The number of science classes he taught gradually shrank each school year until Ishishkin became his full-time job, along with the Native American academic and career exploration class he teaches at the end of each day. So this is cool. I personally have been teaching myself a few other languages. I've actually been writing languages on my whiteboard right here, and I'm teaching myself a little bit of Japanese, Hebrew, German, Latin, Sanskrit, a few other things. Just look, I'm not gonna speak it perfectly now, but this is a work in progress, man. It's you don't just become the best overnight. Unless you have some crazy abilities. Sometimes I do that, but not with this. This language is difficult for me, but I'm doing the best. Anyways, originally, my son recently started a job teaching science at the middle school. On the west side of the Cascades, the Tulalip, Swinomish, and Suquamish tribes are among those offering more classes and school support for Lushoot Seed, the language spoken by Salish tribes around the Puget Sound region. In the Cape Flattery School District in Nia Bay, the Maka tribe partners with schools to offer a dual language program. Wapato is just one of the districts of several around the Yakima Reservation that have started to offer Ishishkin instruction. So they give us a few little words. I'm going to try my best. So to say be respectful in Ishishkin, you would say tamak nam wata. Tumaak nam mata. To say be safe, you would say sheiks. I'm just guessing, man. Apologies if I say this wrong. Sheiks nam sap kitwata. So sheiks nam sap kitwata. To say be responsible, you would say sheiks nam naktakwanita. Oh wait, okay. Sheiks nam naktakwa waninta. Naktakwa waninta. So Sheiks nam naktakwa waninta. That's be responsible. All right, cool. This is 30 minutes away. I mean, I could probably like actually now look forward to learning these type of languages too, if I, so choose so. Wapato High School, where 50% of students identify as Native American, was the first in the state where students earned the state's seal of biliteracy in tribal language. The seal, established in 2014, recognizes public high school graduates who have attained an intermediate mid-proficiency in English and one or more world languages, including American Sign Language and tribal languages. Experts say being able to speak more than one language can greatly benefit a person's brain, even help slow the onset of dementia, as well as improving memory and the ability to multitask. For Native students, Jacob says learning their tribe's language has added the benefit of boosting their confidence in themselves and the connection they have with their identity. Students at Wapato express a range of knowledge and interest in the language, from kids just starting to learn Ischikin to others like Savannah Onesimo, who is on the verge of joining the ranks of Wapato alumni who have earned a seal by literacy. She'll reach official bilingual status in Ischikin this summer. Onesimo, a senior, travels around the region offering prayers in Ischikin at churches and gives speeches in the language at different events. She started learning it in middle school after her mom encouraged her to try to keep the language alive and embrace her heritage. She shares a similar mindset about it. We need to keep our traditions and language close, she said. Without this, we wouldn't have the connection to our culture. There still aren't as many schools offering formal tribal languages classes. State data shows that just 25 schools offered tribal languages courses last year, serving a little more than 6,000 students out of the roughly 1 million enrolled in Washington schools. Part of the problem is the scarcity of people like Jacob, those who have the right combination of linguistic, cultural, and teaching skills. But with growing interest and support from education and policy leaders, more tribes are hopeful about their ability to continue expanding. Washington recognizes the authority of tribes to certify teachers in their language so they can teach the classes in state-run schools. Educators who want to become certified to teach a tribal language make those requests to tribal leaders, who develop their own requirements for what it takes to receive and renew this certification. Once an educator receives authorization from the tribe, they receive certification from the state. Schools can also request consultations with their partner tribe if they want to offer tribal language courses, but the decision ultimately rests with tribal leadership, said Kayla Guyette, tribal language liaison at Washington's Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. Each school district in Washington has a designated partner tribe, she said, and 39 districts are required by law to have consultations with their partner tribe every year. Mostly, OSPI acts as a facilitator and resource provider, Guyette said. But as schools offer more of these classes, the state has spent more time to ensure tribal language credits transfer to college and universities. We are working with OSPI to make sure the process of colleges accepting our students' credits is airtight as possible. Dope. While tribal languages aren't as common as languages like Spanish or French, the state credits high school students for taking tribal classes just like any other world language. Cool. Guyette said some districts in the state have even partnered with local colleges to offer dual credit, and the name of the language students learn is on their high school transcripts. So that's actually pretty cool to like offer dual credit. So what? That's double the credits, right? That's stupid. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's taken years of work to get to this point. Many people, including Jerry Meninick, the Yakama Nation's Deputy Chief Director for Cultural Services, credit the work of retired Washington lawmaker John McCoy as a turning point. McCoy, a member of the Tulalip tribes, who served for 17 years in the States and House Senate, one of the longest Washington's Native serving lawmakers, championed legislation to create the structure for educators and to become the certified teacher of tribal languages, for tribes to have their autonomy as sovereign nations further recognized in the K through 12 schools curriculum. Before that agreement was reached, tribes had to negotiate language accreditation in school with the state, and it could be continuous. On one side, of course, we're dealing with Washington state regulations, and our side, we're dealing with something that's been here for eons. We're trying to catch all the places our people lived. He said that the tribe is expanding efforts into Ellensburg, Kittitas County, and Goldendale, Klickitat County, and other places. Pretty cool. Menelik said the Yakama Nation and other tribes are working to offer classes or language learning opportunities for parents too. So this is not just for the kids. This is a huge push by the Indians. This is amazing. Yes, they are doing something very smart. If they can get the ancient tongue back, they can recreate a connection that humanity was missing. Like everybody here is speaking a brand new language, kind of ish. Like, okay, English got thrown at us, including a lot of the Indians. So if we can get them back, I'm sure that some of the spiritual aspects and some of the divine, the esoteric aspects will be revived too. I hope it is retained through our people, the instructors, the elders, and whoever else, as opposed to the system taking it over and becoming the experts. So they're reviving this, man. No other way to say it. This is amazing. God bless. Now let's continue forward. This is another article from IFL Science. On a strange day in Canada, people could hear others talking from 5 kilometers away. So just think about it. Remember, like me, some of you may have heard stories of, hunters, gatherers, very tribal people, stories of cultures who had very great forest ability, very great ability to hear at long distances. Some people would say that, natives or even others around the world would be able to put their ear down to the ground and hear things from a long way away. I mean, just depends how well they're connected and how clean your system is. And yeah, so this is just a story about 5 kilometers away, people being able to hear each other. We can save this for another day. See, I'm not really trying to read this. I was just showing you. Look, there's proof, I guess, in this town's people could definitely hear each other talking 5 miles away. Weather observer Gordon Toole measured the lowest temperature at Snags Tanny Airport. The thermometer didn't go below 62.2 degrees Celsius. So he had to record extra lines when it was too cold. At those temperatures, people's breath turned into white powder in the air, and it's definitely a danger. In a few minutes, weather could cause hypothermia and destruction of the skin. On one of the weirder effects, residents of Snag, Yukon, was traveling a bit of a different day with their voice. I mean, so they measured over 6 kilometers, and dogs are barking. So the dogs could bark. Okay, he could hear the dogs barking in the main village over 6 kilometers, and the ice cracked at a White River about 1.6 kilometers. What caused these weird sounds? They don't really know. A temperature inversion causing sound waves to bend backwards toward the ground rather than escaping upwards is what the Environment Canada senior climatologist David Phillips says. Adding to the disorientation effect of hearing conversations from a mile away and the icy fog from surrounding them and diminishing their vision, people in the town could see clouds and frozen breath linger in the air for minutes. It was unique to see the vapor trail several hundred yards long to pursue on once they moved outside, becoming lost of no concern as an observer walked along the runway. Each breath remained as a tiny motionless mist behind him at head level. These patches of human breath fog remained in the air still for 3 to 4 minutes before fading away. I horribly read that, but whatever. Moving forward. Complete new way to look at artificial DNA. I'm not going to read these 4 articles. I'm just going to go ahead and show you. So the University of Tokyo is using microRNA to activate an immune response in cancer cells. This is from the scitechdaily.com. Now, from sciencealert.com, our body temps have been dropping for 160 years. Gut microbes may be playing a role. Remember, we've been talking about how our diet has been purposely changed. We've been lacking certain vitamins, certain nutrients, certain chemicals. Our testosterone and fertility rates are dropping. Diseases are increasing because of our diet. And look, I've been telling you, man, you know, scientists are also trying to tell you. The average temperature of a human body has been declining since the middle of the 19th century. And people are, scientists are suggesting it is based on gut microbiome. I would say the same thing. People have lost their sense of natural foods, and are resorted to restaurants and these fake foods, artificial foods, all the time. So if they're not even cooking, they're not using their own 2 hands, they don't know where this food's coming from. They don't see it grow out of soil. Who knows where this is coming from? All GMO food is artificial. Well, not all of it, but you know what I mean. Like all this crap that you see in like McDonald's and a lot of this junk in stores, it's definitely bad for your microbiome. And it's definitely destroying your microbiome, destroying your gut bacteria, making your immunity drop, making your body temperature drop, making your mental processing drop. Your emotion and agitations are in a constant fluctuation. And so in complete sense, your microbiome is definitely the key thing that you guys should all be talking about and healing. Okay, now I will read this. Rolls-Royce unveils early stage design for space nuclear reactor. The company is working with the UK Space Agency for nuclear power and propulsion options in space flight. You heard that. Rolls-Royce is going to space. Nuclear fission systems, which harness the energy released in the splitting of atoms, could be used to power astronaut bases on the moon or Mars. Could be a part of an ambitious spaceflight future. The vulnerable company released at the early stage design of a micronuclear reactor on Friday in the wake of 2021 agreements with the United Kingdom Space Agency to study future nuclear power options in space exploration. Each uranium particle is encapsulated in multiple protective layers that act as a containment system, allowing it to withstand extreme conditions. Nuclear systems have long grown on robotic space missions. For example, radioisotopic thermoelectric generator for many, including NASA's Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 spacecraft, which are currently exploring interstellar space. Big NASA Mars rovers like Perseverance and Curiosity also use RTGs through smaller rovers such as Spirit and Opportunity with their solar panels. But RTGs are not fission reactors. Rather, they are nuclear batteries, converting to electricity the heat thrown off the decay of radioactive material. Nuclear fission has yet to power a spacecraft that can suit. For example, NASA and DARPA recently announced plans to build a nuclear thermal rocket by 2027. The power source of the sun or other stars, which flows from the merging of atoms, could also be one part of humanity's spaceflight portfolio. That possible future is a long-term one. However, our species has yet to harness this power source on Earth. I mean, recently we did have a breakthrough in fusion energy. Speaking generally, some of the concerns of space fission or fusion power include safety for astronauts, portability as more mass means a more expensive mission, and longevity in a harsh and rigid environment. But nuclear power is a staple of space exploration nonetheless, both in reality and in science fiction. The technology even helped fuel a joke in The Martian. So I guess if you want to see something about this, and watch The Martian. So, pretty cool. This is cool. Rolls Royce. I mean, who would have known? They, I would be one of those companies. I'll be honest. Just from the design of it, from the technicality of a Rolls Royce, I always imagine that they could be used on a space level. Now, last but not least, science alert. Incredible fairy robot sails on the breeze like a floating dandelion. Weighing in just at 1.2 milligrams, a new robot called Fairy. That's short for Flying Aero Robots based on light responsive materials assembly is the first flying bot we've seen on soft materials that respond to light. The robot was inspired by dandelion seeds, and ultimately it could be used the same way. Its creators are hoping that it might be deployed to help mitigate the loss of pollinators that we are currently seeing in the wild. Lights can be used to get the fairy up in the air and control the spread of its bristles. After that, the ultralight bot travels on the wind and could potentially be dispersed across large distances like the seeds that is based on. The fairy can be powered and controlled by a light source, such as a laser beam or LED. It sounds like science fiction, but the proof of concept experiments included in our research show that the robot we have developed provides an important step towards how realistic applications suitable for artificial pollination can be. As well as being very light, the fairy bot is also very porous in its design, which helps it take to the air. It also is be able to create its own vortex ring, which, just like the dandelion seed, adds to the aerodynamics and ensures the device can travel long distances without any extra help. There's some level of control in the wind, as the shape of the flying machine can be adjusted to match, a bit like the sail of a ship. However, it isn't something that can be directly piloted in the same way as a drone, for example. Right here, this is just awesome. So, technology can be cool. All right, guys. Don't always just hate our phones, if Facebook's draining our battery. But some scientists are trying to recreate the pollination efforts, and that's good. The robot is made of bristly filament with the individual fibers measuring a mere 14 microns thick. Connecting the bristles is an actuator, a bendable strip controlled by light that manages the opening and closing of the bot. Superior to its natural counterparts, this artificial seed is equipped with a soft actuator. The actuator is made of light-responsive liquid crystalline elastomer, which induces opening or closing actions of the bristles upon visible light excitation. After testing them in wind tunnels and under laser lights, Zhang and his colleagues imagine millions of these artificial seeds carrying pollen on the wind, with light used to steer them towards trees needing to be pollinated. However, plenty more work needs to be done before this can happen. The researchers are looking at ways to more precisely control where these fairy bots land and considering how they might be biodegradable too. The project is scheduled to continue its investigations until August 2026, having started in September 2021. Dandelion seeds are able to travel 10, sometimes even hundreds of kilometers in hot, dry, windy conditions thanks to their ingenious design, some of which has been borrowed here with no battery or dirt power source needed. These fairy bots could do the same. This would have a huge impact on agriculture globally, since the loss of pollinators due to global warming has become a serious threat to biodiversity and food production. So there's a lot of scientists fighting back against what Bill Gates has done. And with that, my friends, I am out of here. You guys have a wonderful day. Be blessed, be high. Remember, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, and just smoke a fat one. Yeah, enjoy your day. Make sure to hit my sponsors down below. All right. Yeah. Peace out. Have a wonderful day. Be blessed, be high.
Meditating, analyzing everything I see, so I see new horizons. Took the acid, feeling blasted in my brain, so I've been sitting up inside it, thinking about the present and the future. I'm improving cause I am a trooper, never getting caught up in the loop. Got up out it cause I found the truth. Woke up to a beauty of the day, yeah, the sun is shining, so I'm finna stay. Sitting, soaking up all of the rays, till I feel it surging through my brain like some booger sugar. Did a lot of cane, experimented with it, couldn't name all the times I did it, feeling like a fade. Yeah, I'm really glad that I let it go, cause I gotta be prepped for the time when the plane ride is a new norm. So I know I'm gonna stay high, blaze on the ganja, feeling like I make my music go to another level while I take off. I can't ever stop this, fell in love with it, fit like a glove, so I'm never ever done with it. So now I'm about to rip another beat, ayy. One day I'll make a million in a week, yeah, shooting for the top spot. Feel like I'm a hot shot, like I really got a chance with it. I will not flop, somebody gonna make it dance when I pop off. Gonna have all the bitches taking all the tops off. I've been feeling like I'm really gonna kill it for the rest of my life, so I've been staying focused. In my soul, I've been feeling like $1 million, so I know that everything is really getting closer. Yeah, no posers, only been hanging with the ones I've chosen. Only all the people that are living in the right way, cause they spending every day growing. Yeah, no whole shit coming in my life and then leaving in a moment. That's the shit I'll never let into my life again, cause lately I've been feeling like I'm golden. Never showboat, I just showcase on my music that I made this far. Always knew that I could be the one that would get this far. Now I'm right here looking in my mirror, trying to figure out if there's any more fear, cause I'm getting rid of it all, yeah. Yeah, I'm getting rid of it all. Meditating, analyzing everything I see, so I see new horizons. Took the acid, feeling blasted in my brain, so I've been sitting up inside it, thinking about the present and the future. I'm improving cause I am a trooper, never getting caught.